And wrapping up the prelims here, we get into some of the most exciting fights on the card and the reason why myself and others are calling this one of the best cards of the year, which is awesome that we get to end the year on this one. We've got Josh Emmett at around plus 170 to plus 180 now, which is insane to think about. And Bryce Mitchell's at minus 225. Now, Bryce opened at around minus 130 on Caesars, Rick, and he has now moved all the way to minus 225. This fight was announced last week, and he's already almost moved 100 points of juice, which is insane for a short notice guy, the guy who's short notice to step in. I think a lot of that has to do with the Emmett piece here. So Emmett is at 38 years of age now, and at 145 pounds, Mitchell is holding that huge age advantage over him at 29. I touched on earlier, 38 is kind of that magic number where we see a lot of those fighters deteriorate in terms of their durability in the octagon. Mitchell's not really going to challenge that necessarily. He's not going to be one that knocks him out. In fact, Mitchell has no knockouts to his name in his professional MMA career. So I know for a fact he's not going to be knocking out Josh Emmett. The other thing that I think has impacted this line is the clash of styles. So what Emmett was preparing for was an orthodox kickboxer. He's now going up against a southpaw wrestler, which is such a dramatic change of styles to have to prepare for in a 10-day span once the fight was announced. So for me, I think what's the question is going to be on like which way this fight goes. Emmett's a great defensive wrestler. He does not take damage well. Can Mitchell figure it out and get him down, maybe get him into ground and pound and get that first knockout? Or can he choke him out? Mitchell's got 52 minutes of control time during his time with the UFC. And he's second all time in featherweight in time on top in 47 minutes. I almost just grazed over that. I wanted to make sure I emphasized 47 minutes. Emmett, on the other hand, leads the featherweight division all time with 11 knockdowns. So we do have two kind of record holders in their respective rights. Mitchell's quick, unorthodox in his approach, and Emmett only really has 10 days to get ready for this weird style. I think we missed out on the opportunity to just take Mitchell straight. Like we're recording on Tuesday night this week. It's too late for us to take Mitchell straight when he opened up at minus 130. But I really don't want to take Emmett straight either.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you painted the picture really well for this fight. There's a clash of styles. Mitchell's a wrestler. Emmett's more of a striker, power striker at that. And Mitchell taking it on short notice. I think the defensive wrestling is going to be huge for Emmett. Emmett doesn't really take damage well at this point in his career. I mean, Calvin Kattar, Yair Rodriguez, Ilia Topuria all really damaged him up, and that eye really gets blown up nowadays as soon as he starts taking damage. But to your point, Mitchell really probably won't be the person to do that unless he's doing some ground and pound after he gets a takedown. But in a 3-round fight, I worry about Mitchell being able to win rounds with just takedowns. And Emmett's, I mean, like you said, Emmett has elite wrestling defense. Maybe we missed out on Mitchell minus 130. Maybe. I'm happy to take Emmett at plus 200 or close to, because I've got it at plus 195 right now. And so at nearly 2-to-1 odds, I'll take the guy who's had a full camp, that already has great defensive wrestling, and is going up against a guy who on the feet isn't great. There's obviously always going to be the caveat that Emmett gets taken down, held there by Mitchell, or submitted by Mitchell, but it really hasn't happened in Emmett's career. So I like Emmett in this fight, especially a 2-to-1 underdog line against a guy on short notice. But what was the angle that you ended up liking on this fight that you ended up playing?
So I think if Josh Emmett wins, he's not going to be knocking Bryce Mitchell out. I think he might be able to knock him down, but I don't think that he's going to be able to put his lights out. I would rather side with his cardio here because I do think that from what I've seen with Mitchell, he got gassed out towards like about halfway through that Topuria fight. And he also was not overly impressive in his last time out against Dan Ige. The only impressive thing he did was how much he yelled and how much he showed his Bible to all of us. So I think if Bryce wins, he ends up pulling it off inside the distance where he does kind of find a way to get Emmett down and test that defensive wrestling. Bryce did throw a little bit against Topuria. It was nothing really to be proud about, but he did throw a little bit. I don't think that him throwing a little bit does him any favors against Josh Emmett, where I think it would rather open him up a bit more to get absolutely clocked by the knockdown artist himself. But I do like his chances to get him down to the ground and test that defensive wrestling, where I don't necessarily want to lock myself in on submission because of how bad Emmett's chin is, if he can get him down and like get him in a secure spot, he could go into a ground and pound. So I like Bryce to win inside the distance here at minus 135. I'm going to go with that play for a unit, and I'm going to pick Bryce to win the fight. Now, where I'm going to get some value here is I'm going to go with Josh Emmett by decision at plus 500 for half a unit. And that's where I think that's where I think the value is on this one. So half a unit at plus 500, that's a 2.5 unit win if Emmett's able to pull it off. And that inside the distance for Bryce on Bet Online, that is in that whole fight goes to decision, the bet pushes market. So I like when a book can offer you that, because if you can get that inside the distance, but the fight pushes when it goes to decision, and pair it with a decision bet on either with him or on the other side, I think that's not always a bad idea. So again, going with Emmett to get the decision for half unit plus 500, Bryce to win inside the distance at minus 135 for a full unit. With that bet pushes if it goes to decision. Rick is on the opposite side of me. He's going with Emmett to get the win. Rick, any parting thoughts before we head into the main card here?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think this fight could go to decision as well. I think it does go to decision. I think that Bryce Mitchell is going to be able to use that wrestling to be able to get himself out of some trouble. And they might win him a round or two. But I like Emmett to win the fight. I think the damage that he's going to be able to do compared to the wrestling is going to outscore Mitchell. And it very well could end up being on the feet for the majority of this fight as well. Or at least in the clinch where Bryce is trying to take him down and eating some little rabbit punches and such. But I like Emmett to win the fight. I've got him straight up. I'll play it at plus 195. That's what I'm seeing now for a half unit. And then I was just thinking that same thing right before you said it about Emmett by decision at plus 500. And I've got a quarter unit on that because I'm not as confident in that. But I like this fight to probably go to decision. It's going to be a long – they're going to wear each other out. And Bryce has fought to so many decision wins across his career. I mean, in his time in the UFC and right before the UFC when he faced Chepe Mariscal, who's now in the UFC, it goes decision, decision, submission, decision, decision, submission, decision, 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 submission, decision. Now, by MMA math, we should have another decision. So let's hit on Josh Emmett to win by decision. Let's give you a 2.5 unit win there. Give me what will end up being, I guess, a 2.25 unit cash there. But who are you on officially to win the fight? Were you on Bryce to win the fight?
I got Bryce. You
picked Bryce. Yeah, so we're split on the picks. You're on Bryce. Wrestling. Yeah, you're on Bryce. I'm on Emmett. But both of us would love an Emmett by decision win. So that is it for the prelims. Next up, we've got the main card, and that main card starts off with everyone's favorite cuck, Ian Machado Gary, taking on Vicente Luque. We will see you there, everyone.